I think we may have had a problem with our music anyway, because I don't know about you, Fintan, but I couldn't hear it anyway, so there's a few tech issues my end, but delighted to be here for the Monday show on Our Game with myself, Michael Verney, and Fintan O'Toole of the 42.ie, kindly sponsored as always by orgaretro.com. Go to orgaretro or orgaretro.com on online, should I say, or on the internet, and get 15% off when you use the promo code OurGame. Fintan, delighted to have you this morning. There's only one place to start really, and that is as high profile of an appointment as we've had in quite a while, and a surprising one, but a very shrewd one from the Dublin County Board's point of view. Miche&aacute Donoghue ratified as Dublin hurling boss for 3 years, with a lot of familiar faces from his time in Galway when he won All-Ireland there, 2 Leinsters and a league as well. Big news, and probably the appointment that they needed for hurling in the capital.
Yeah, I guess the Dublin vacancy has probably been a bit overshadowed by the other news over the last couple of weeks, Verney, in terms of Derek Ling and Kilkenny and Davy to Waterford, and obviously Cork and Tipp finding new managers as well. But it's definitely, I'd say, taking people by surprise. It's certainly high profile, only announced in the last hour. I don't know about you, but I mean, usually with these things, you kind of get some kind of an inkling, or someone will report something. The Davy news being a prime example, a couple of days beforehand or a week beforehand, I hadn't seen Donoghue linked anywhere with this. I don't know about you, but this is definitely a bit of a surprising one in that sense. But they've gone for a really, really big name, really, really good track record. A decade since he won an All-Ireland club title as a manager, then got involved in kind of background with Tipperary hurlers during Eamon O'Shea's time, and obviously then has had huge success with Galway. Just when I was looking at it this morning, when you think about it, like just obviously the All-Ireland title, but like 2 Leinsters, a league, very close to winning another All-Ireland, and then probably just a bit shocked to probably in his last season in charge in 2019. Interesting background team with him as well, in the sense that he's brought 2 of the guys who worked very closely with him, Francis Ford, who obviously you would know has had a lot of success in Offaly hurling as well, in club game, and Noel Larkin as well. And then Shane O'Brien's an interesting one, in terms of they've gone for the clever enough, I think, strategy of appointing him as senior selector and under 20 manager. He's obviously had a good bit of time in Westmeath. Then last weekend he was with Artabala. They got back up to senior club level in Wexford. They won the intermediate final. So, you've kind of got guys you've worked with closely, and then you've got a guy who's hugely familiar with the Dublin hurling scene. But it was, from the outset, it looked like it was kind of stagnating a bit, the Dublin search, but obviously we've completely misread that, when this was in the background the whole time. And I think it's just amazing the amount of kind of high profile big names that have been kind of pointed to hurling jobs. And even I was saying this morning, like with Colin Rourke obviously gone as well, and Davy, like it's another pundit who was involved in the Sunday game this year has stepped out of the studio and is going to be back on the sideline next year. So it's going to be kind of fascinating to see how he does. Certainly a big one in the frame now for Dublin in 2023.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of new faces on the Sunday game by the looks of things as well. This is the perfect appointment, Fintan, from a Dublin point of view. There's signs of real life under Matty Kenny. Then maybe some low points. Funnily enough, probably the biggest high point of all was when they beat Miche&aacute Donoghue's Galway in his last game as Galway manager. You probably have to say it looked like Donoghue was staying on for 2020, and definitely that the players wanted him to stay on for 2020. And whatever hoo-ha happened in the background, and he parted ways, and he's kind of kept quiet. Very little involvement with any club teams that I'm aware of, not managing a team anyway to any great degree. Francis Ford has been involved with Laois the last couple of years. Noel Larkin was involved with Westmeath. He's involved with Kildare, McDonough's as well. Shane O'Brien, obviously, former inter-county manager. When you put the whole thing together, it is an impressive team. And if you're trying to lure guys, not potentially maybe lure guys away from football, but if you're trying to lure more guys towards the hurling scene, this would definitely, your ears will be pricked when you see this announcement today. And I, from our point of view, journalistically, it's frustrating that you don't hear these things. But from a Dublin County Board point of view, hats off to them for keeping this under wraps and keeping it so quiet as well.
Yeah, they played a blinder in that sense. I mean, we'll probably talk about it in a minute, but there's another county, who's obviously very high profile in the news in terms of the way their managerial thing has been played out with background teams and everything. Literally when the press release dropped, like, it's very rare now, I think, you get these press releases and you're like, kind of absolutely kind of shocked. I mean, or kind of stunned and taken aback. Maybe the Sheffield to Galway one was probably something similar last year. But
yeah, I'd agree. Yeah.
You look at every other manager appointment, big one in the last few weeks. Like I was looking at it, like say Derek Ling, Pat Ryan, and Liam Cahill have between them won the last, I think, 5 All-Ireland under 20 and under 21 titles as managers. So, and they've stepped up in those counties to those positions. The Davy to Waterford one had been kind of flagged with a couple of days beforehand. I think you had kind of written it on the Monday or Tuesday yourself, and there have been kind of some whispers the previous week as well. Once the Camogie final was over, he was in the frame. But this is very unusual that it's been kept so under wraps. So they've done really, really well there. It's a very, very exciting kind of a package to get together. I mean, Donoghue is, as a character, maybe he's kind of a little bit kind of quieter and maybe a bit more reserved than, say, a Davy, for example. But I think there's no doubt about his kind of hurling acumen, kind of how shrewd a manager he is, how highly regarded he was by the Galway players. And when you are the man that gets a county over the line after waiting for so long, as it was, 29 years in 2017, that's serious capital in the bank for you in terms of your.
I like the way you use capital as well. Capital going to capital.
Not even meant, but we'll go with that as a guy at that point getting dropped in there. But and then you mentioned the guys that he is with him as well. The fact that, like, you mentioned Francis Ford, Noel Larkin, that they've been kind of keeping their finger on the pulse. O'Brien is the link to the president. And Dublin, I think, needed something. They needed a bit of a jolt. It's just been too sporadic, the good moments. And I think the thing that has really probably really kind of hampered them is they're just unable to kind of put two big results back to back together. You have these big statement wins like in 2019 when they beat Galway that night in Parnell Park. And then actually, again, when they beat Galway last year, one of the first games of COVID, but then kind of limped out of the championship after that with the loss of Kilkenny in the Leinster final, and then Cork in the Ireland qualifiers. And then this year just didn't manage to kind of get out of the group. So I think they needed something to kind of revitalise it, because even in a wider sense, underage just probably hasn't been going as well as maybe as it was. They still got to Ireland the 20 final a couple of years ago against Cork and Nolan Park. And it was interesting, not a lot of those players have yet kind of come through. So you wonder, will some of those guys be kind of stepped up now as well? But it's fascinating, isn't it? I mean, between him, Shefflin, Derek Ling, Darragh Egan, just again a lot of very, very high profile guys involved in the Leinster Championship this year. And obviously there's this constant debate over which championship gets the more profile. Once we Leinster, you and Saint obviously are always at loggerheads over that kind of thing, boosting your province. But in terms of for the Leinster Championship, I think it's a really, really good thing to kind of revitalise it. I mean, the Dublin Galway game already will be kind of fascinating one next year in the round robin.
And it's funny, a lot of guys would try and avoid that potential date with their native county. He's going straight in. They're definitely going to play them at least once. And if he's there for 3 years, they're going to play them at least three times and potentially more. And Flash just makes a point here. There's probably frustration within the county with how long the process seemed to have taken, but it definitely was worth the wait in the end. And that's funny. When you come up with that big name and when you deliver, it doesn't really matter how long it takes. Matty stepped down quite a while ago. It's kind of irrelevant now. They've got their man. They've gone back west again. And I think it's a really, really positive appointment. And with him coming in and definitely managing against Galway, you're going to have Shefflin against Kilkenny again. You're going to have Shefflin against Derek Ling, former teammates coming up against each other again. Then throw Wexford, Darragh Egan into the mix. Throw Westmeath after a good year in Leinster into the mix as well. And it's going to be seriously intriguing. And then Antrim, who I believe suffered a cruciate blow in recent weeks. I think Conor McCann did his cruciate in club action, so he could be under pressure to feature in the Leinster Championship next year. But it's already teed up nicely. And yeah, you're right. people, including yourself, probably love talking about Munster as much as possible, but Leinster will definitely get plenty of airtime. Just a couple of other bits of managerial news. Fintan, Pat Flanagan is set to take over his 4th county. He's looking like he's on his way to Roscommon. Obviously, heavily involved with the Pádraig Pearse's club. Brought them to their first county title in a long time in 2017, I think it was. And then they obviously are reigning Connacht champions as well. Pat has been around the block as an inter-county manager, but a real proven track record between Offaly, Sligo, Westmeath. I think he brought Westmeath all the way up to Division 1. Probably a natural enough appointment, I'd say, in Roscommon.
Yeah, and I guess we can, as a neat segue, we can go with the Galway hurling link, obviously taken over from Anthony Cunningham, who kind of departed. Wasn't the first name that was kind of mentioned as regards this job. There was talk with Stephen Rochford, Mick Bowen was being discussed as well. A couple of other people kind of being linked also. And it was kind of more Longford was the talk as regards Flanagan to kind of get on board with. But like Roscommon are still a very, very attractive, I think, county to be taken over. Gone back up to Division 1 football next year. That must be a big kind of a card for a manager to be kind of taken, given the work Cunningham did and that he got them. They have been a bit of a yo-yo team in terms of that Division 1, Division 2. Are they, it's kind of treading water sometimes at Division 1 and then regularly kind of in the promotion shake-up kind of in the second tier. But look, regularly competitive with Mayo and Roscommon in Connacht. Mayo and Galway in Connacht. I don't think there's any doubt that they've kind of established themselves as a third force there. And obviously Flanagan is a big link to the county and he's very, very kind of aware of the club scene. And it's a small county. There isn't a huge amount of clubs and all that. So the fact the work he's been doing with Pearse over the last couple of years, I imagine that's brought him into contact not only with players within his own club, but with oppositions. And he has a good kind of a sense of it. Travel-wise, he's based in Offaly, as far as I know, that where he is. So it's not exactly like long kind of trek or anything like that. I think it kind of fits and it kind of works on various levels. Like anything, I suppose he does seem to be the front runner. This is what we're hearing. Who's he going to bring in with him? I guess will be one of the key kind of decisions. But definitely, Pearse has kind of talked very highly of him. The Pearse's players last year when they won the Connacht Championship and obviously got that out of Ireland semi-final against Kilmacud, and he was the guy that got them over the line when they'd finally won the county, having been one of these kind of perennial sides contesting finals in Roscommon and just unable to kind of get the job done. And obviously, as you said yourself, he's huge experience just in the county game itself, full stop, and obviously has a huge kind of a passion and enthusiasm for coaching to be kind of keep driving to go back to the club game, maybe kind of reinvent himself a small little bit, and now gets another county job. Probably maybe the most high profile ones he's had in terms of where they're ranked when he's taken over. I mean, the fact that they're going to be in Division 1 football next year. You think Dublin aren't going to be in Division 1, for example, and given the quality of teams he's going to be testing himself against, it must be an appealing position for him to be taken.
It would be remiss of us, Fintan, not to talk about their somewhat noisy neighbours next door, who it seems like an appointment is imminent there. The word on the street seems to be, and you're kind of hearing it as well, is that something is coming tonight. There's talks of the name being under wraps. Then you're hearing a couple of different names, but there is a bit of a circus around the Mayo job at the moment. You'd have to say. And you'd nearly imagine whoever is announced tonight and nearly be paraded in an open top car down the middle of Castlebar this evening around 8:30 or 9 o'clock.
Yeah, I guess it's just one of the most standout jobs in Game 20 football. It's still fascinating. They may have been knocked out at the quarterfinal stage this year, but there's still so much more kind of interest and kind of profile around them because given how prominent the county they've been over the last decade and that they haven't managed to get over the line. And then obviously James Horan has been so identified with the Mayo football kind of story in his 2 different spells. And just with the level of candidate that seems to have been attracted in the backroom team, it's kind of fascinating. I mean, I suppose just to touch on the point you made there about Dublin, the fact that it took them a while to do it, people are kind of get a bit uneasy in that situation, I think, and naturally I think fans just look to other counties. Like, for example, these things don't work as quickly, but basically the way like Cork, Kingston stepped down on a Sunday and Pat Ryan was announced on the Monday, Colin Bonner was relieved of his duties, to use the phrase in the press release, on a Wednesday, but the following Monday, Liam Cahill was in place. So some counties just do it very, very swiftly. Some counties take a little bit longer. Dublin obviously kept the whole thing kind of under wraps in the hurling sense. Mayo, it's just been a different approach. It's been kind of interesting. I found it kind of fascinating, to be honest, like the level of candidates that have been involved in the backroom team.
Have you ever seen anything like it? Like the caliber of, like, you could put like they could manage 8 or 9 teams between them if you split them up even in twos. Like the caliber of individual there is absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, like each one of the 4 candidates have really pushed the boat out in terms of the guys they've been able to kind of attract and get behind them. I think it speaks to 2 things. I think one, it's just no longer about the manager. In any club or county, immediately, who's with him, who's part of the overall team. You see how much time we've talked about as regards Miche&aacute. It's not just Miche&aacute, but it's the guys that he has kind of working alongside him. That's what's kind of interesting. Like Liam Cahill in Tipperary, there was almost a lot of people that was excited, I thought, with Paulie Maher coming in as regards a recent link to the playing pass. And then also just the level of individual that is keen to get involved in Mayo football. It just shows that it is still one of the most attractive jobs in the inter-county game. I mean, they lost decisively in the end to the eventual All-Ireland champions this year, but like in that third quarter, like maybe this is the perennial Mayo story that's kind of regrets, but you're just thinking if they had a Tommy Conroy or Ryan O'Donoghue, someone there with the amount of chances they were generating, you see they were in the All-Ireland minor final again this year. It just feels that they're not that far away again, and they're obviously going to be a top table side next year in the league. So that's why if the names we're hearing, the likes of Oisin McConville, Donny Buckley, Stephen Rochford, coaches of the highest caliber, guys very, very prominent in the inter-county game, that these guys are kind of willing to get involved and want to kind of be part of the management team. The sense that I'm hearing is that basically we're going to get an announcement tonight that the clubs are going to be told. The executive are kind of fighting tooth and nail to keep it under wraps for definite. But it doesn't seem like everyone's saying that one person is definitely going to get appointed, but the sense seems to be that Kevin McStay followed by Ray Dempsey are the 1 and 2 at this stage, if you were to put in a pecking order. But I wouldn't be saying that with a huge amount of confidence, because from just a couple of calls this morning talking to people, it doesn't seem like that anyone has a definite kind of sense of which way this is going. So I think the interesting thing is that whoever's appointed, Michael, is it's who's not going to be involved is going to be as interesting, because we have heard so many big names kind of involved in the different management teams.
And then you'll get a knock-on effect, as I was saying last week, a knock-on effect of all those guys that aren't involved with the winning ticket being available again, and potentially try to be lured into another inter-county ticket, or in a few months' time, potentially for a club team for 2023. So I think that's a fascinating part of it too. Just when you mentioned Mayo there, obviously they fell to the eventual All-Ireland champions by 8 points in the end. But when you say it there, you're looking next year, all going well. Tommy Conroy will be back. Ryan O'Donoghue will be back. Killian O'Connor will have a season under his belt, where it probably took him nearly till the end of the season to get back near his best again. So they are coming into a nice position. A couple of people want to know about the Offaly job. Richard Hogan, any word on Offaly hurling? Seamus O'Connor, yes, lads, what's the story with the Offaly job? Flash reckons he knows anyway. Richard Hogan, last I heard it was Liam Sheedy and Eamon O'Shea who were going in there. Haven't seen anything else since, so not sure if there's been any change development. Pretty quiet on that front at the moment as well, so expecting something in the next day or two. If we were to get Sheedy and O'Shea, it'd obviously be a massive coup. So expecting something to be announced, either yay or nay for the two lads. Hopefully we'll be able to keep them on board. It'd be huge for us if we could. Fintan, we just said so much club action to go through. Spent about an hour reading out the fixtures, I'd say, on last Thursday's show. We'll obviously have to cherry pick bits and pieces. I just encourage all the viewers as well, if there's anything in particular that you saw over the weekend, or something that stood out, or a result that may have flew under the radar, we'd really appreciate any of your feedback as always. One place to start, I suppose, Fintan, is with the Tipperary Senior Hurling Championship. And obviously, we previewed it on the Thursday show. It was a very somber note, kind of Tipperary Championship kicking back into gear after Dylan Quirke's tragic passing 2 weeks ago. I can't imagine how difficult it was for the Clonulty Rossmore lads to take to the pitch, but they did, and they managed to get a result. They won 25 points to 119 against Mike Carkey Boris, an occasion absolutely charged with emotion. Just some quotes from the club chairman, Andrew Friday. He just said the last 2 weeks have been very, very tough. It's actually just mad to think that it has only been 2 weeks, and we're still 2 weeks off a month's mind mass for his passing, which is just kind of difficult to get your head around. And he just said something unprecedented in our club that we never ever came across before. How do you deal with it? How do you handle it? We didn't know. One day at a time. We got the boys back into training, in for a chat as soon as we could, because they needed to focus themselves. They were lost. We were all lost. We just love to have Dylan with us again, but that's not going to happen. So we have to reunite. We have to come together as a club and as a family. can't imagine, Fintan, how difficult it must have been for them to deal with that and, you know, I suppose harness their energy towards delivering a performance, but they somehow managed to do so.
Yeah, look, it's an unimaginably tough thing. I guess maybe going back hurling, maybe it's kind of something natural. At least you're together as a collective. Maybe there was some kind of a little bit of comfort in that for the players involved. But look, like I said, it's just incredibly hard to figure out kind of how you get your heads around kind of going to that again and playing a championship game. Saw Timmy Hammersley tweeting, the former Kilkenny player who's with Ballygunner now, kind of tweeted Warriors, and I think that kind of sums it up. To win a tough championship game in August is a fair old achievement anyway. At this time of year, and obviously looked like quite very warm conditions yesterday in Borlath, but obviously given everything they've gone through, it's kind of even more kind of admirable and kind of praiseworthy what they did. I think as well, it probably shouldn't be lost that I'd say it was a very, very difficult day across the county and across the weekend yesterday. When you think of the Kildare McDonald's players, what they, must be a very, very difficult experience for them. I understand that there was kind of hope that maybe the permutations would work out, that maybe this Clonalty Kildare refixture may not have had to take place, but unfortunately, I think the way it has now, they're going to have to play that game, and I think that's going to be possibly even more difficult a situation for them to kind of both kind of understand. Even I was watching a bit of the Tipp club games that were on TG Carter yesterday. The Drum Inch and Third Associates players thought it was a lovely gesture. They both retired the number 11 jersey for the day as well. You saw the Miche&aacute Boris signed their club number 11 jersey, and their captain Pat Malloy presented the Clonalty guys. The Drum Inch and Third Associates players gathered in one line along the 20-yard line in front of the town end terrace before the game for the minute silence, and just kind of stood there. And like James Callan spoke very well in TG Carter after the match about it. So trying to get back to something approaching normal, but look, it's going to be such a raw and tough and emotional thing for a long, long time, and there's so much pain and hurt for those people. But all you can do is kind of just say, really hats off to the Clonalty players for managing to come out and get the win that keeps them, I suppose, in contention. And managing to win what was kind of a tight game. But I would say, I'd say it's going to be a difficult championship for, I think, all round for Tipperary, because of the fact that obviously, look, he's so connected with the Clonalty Rossmore club. That was his club, and these are the guys that he has lifelong friendships and family links and all that too. But because he was involved with Hurler CBS and the Tipperary 21s and the Tipperary seniors, there's a huge volume of players that have shared a dressing room with him, and I think it's going to be a tough time, I think, for the county at that club level over the next few weeks. But Callan kind of made the point yesterday in TG Carter. He said, look, it was just good to kind of get back out there and to kind of be doing something and get people out of doors. And as he said, for maybe an hour, people maybe slightly forgot the kind of pain and were able to kind of get focused on something as what we invest a lot of significance and importance of, something that's probably mundane and kind of as normal as just playing a game of hurling and trying to win a championship match.
Just to echo something you said there, I know we're all rival parishes and we all batter each other at different times, but it never ceases to amaze me how clubs that have these rivalries can come together and unite and bond in the most difficult of times. And I think there was a lot of unreal gestures over the weekend from different clubs towards Clonalty and towards the Cork family, which was great to see. Just a couple of other results from the Tipperary Championship. In that same group, Miche&aacute had a 319 to 117 win over Kildare McDonough's. Jake Morris got an absolute wonder goal, which I'm going to try and share here now. This is as good a goal as you will see. One-handed finish. It was just brilliant. Let's see if I can get it up here. Hopefully I can. And we should be here. Yeah, should be able to see it here now. Let's go back to it again here. So there's a long ball played in.
They know they need to get something out of this game. Coming into this game with just 1 point, that one is left in and it's out. Can they get something out of this? 100! What a goal! Jake Morris! 100 control! The same
like we've seen him, Fintan, at different stages over the last few years. With one-handed finishes, tennis-style finishes. But this was another level, to actually control the ball with one hand and slam it into the back of net with that set. Like the risks that are needed to require. We often just say, I'd say about Owen Kelly back in the day for Tipp, you just say risks, when he throw over a point or something like that. But the risks and the skill involved in something like that is absolutely unbelievable.
But yeah, it's also just something very instinctive, you know. There's not kind of much thought about it. The way the ball came and the way he controls it with one touch, and then it's just a natural thing for him to kind of take that one-handed swipe. But as you said, he does have something similar in his locker. Like, he got a goal against Cork in a 2020 qualifier. I think you and me were actually both covering that game down the Gaelic grounds. Similar, would run all the way and batted it in. Remember, he got a goal against Kilkenny in the league this year. It's similar to that type of finish. So he has kind of perfected that kind of one-handed swipe, or the kind of one-handed shot that's a little bit higher when he's throwing the ball up. But obviously, yeah, huge piece of skill, and a win that they obviously needed, Nina, because they had managed to win either of their first two games to date. You know, kind of gets them back into kind of the shake-up now in terms of kind of the knockout stages, because the thing about Tipp that's jumping out for me is just how competitive it is, particularly the Group 2. I think the Drum-Inch sort of stars Bursa League game, it looks like Drum-Inch, they're not definitely true, but given scoring differences in their favour, they probably are. But most likely you're going to have either last year's county finalists, Thurles Sarsfields, or the recent All-Ireland club finalists and Tipp champions, Bursa League, out at the group stage, because neither managed to win their divisional title. So that would be a major team to exit the race. You know, the task is probably difficult for Bursa League now. I think they have to beat Drum-Inch, and obviously scoring difference is going to come into it, because they're -6 at the moment on 2 points. Thurles Sarsfields are +5 and 2 points, and then Drum-Inch are +18 and 4 points. And those couple of goals that Drum-Inch got towards the end of yesterday's game, the live game that was on TG Carr, could be kind of crucial. And they impressed me now. They looked a really kind of athletic side, a lot of depth. Callan is obviously the figurehead and the guy you're looking out for, and maybe before that people are looking at James Woodlock, but they actually have a huge volume of guys that have played minor or under 20 or under 21 Tipperary over the last couple of years. Like, you know, as happens at these things, the TG Carr cameras pan to Liam Cahill kind of sitting on his own, sunglasses on in the stand, kind of taking in the two games. But if there was one player I was wondering, was he looking at, would have been John Campion, who was a midfield for the Tipp under 20s this year. Looks kind of an all-action type of player. Imagine, you know, new manager trying to make a stamp in it and maybe kind of shake up the panel a little bit, might kind of bring someone like that in. But I think from here on in, it'll get really interesting, these kind of group stages across the country, because it can be a bit of a slow burner, you know, if you're not done with a major kind of attachment to one of the clubs involved or one of the counties. But then when you start seeing quarterfinal lineups shaking up and you start seeing some big sides maybe exiting the championship early, I think that kind of spikes the interest levels a little bit. And definitely if you've Barcelona, a third of Sarsfield's gone, that would be a big thing. And even Lockmore Castleiney, you know, they drew again yesterday. Like, they're down so many players from the team that won the county last year in such memorable fashion. It's still in their own hands heading into the last game, but and like, I think the manager made the point after, I think they're down 5 of the forward line from last year. Obviously John McGrath being the big one with his Achilles injury, but it looks, from the outside, looks a very competitive championship. You know, it looks like it could be a bit more wide open for someone to come and take it now this year.
It looks absolutely wide open, is right, yeah. And kind of people are probably talking up Drum a lot on based on yesterday. But you definitely have to say they definitely put their hand into the equation anyway yesterday, big time. And Lockmore, I think they're missing Ed Connolly as well. Kieran Connolly, I believe, is either due back from the States or is back already, but might have a knock. Brian O'Mara, who was also over in the States, neither of them were involved with Tipp this year. He was back for Holy Cross at the weekend, which was a big boost, and I'm sure Liam Cahill will be definitely trying to keep him on board. Just on Morris's goal, Fintan, as regards like really exquisite pieces of skill, are there any other goals that really kind of stand out for you down through the years? I would say for a Cork goal anyway, Jimmy Barry's deft flick onto John Fenton's pull ball in would definitely be up there. Andrew Sullivan just says here, I wonder, does he play tennis? Beautiful forehand. It's a bit of a Rafa Nadal left-handed forehand to Morris, all right. But like, we've seen great goals, but like, I mean, maybe more little deft touches or pieces of skill. Damien Quigley's goal in the 94 All-Ireland would strike to me, where he kind of turned and flicked the ball back away from Jim Troy. A beautiful little flick. Any other goals like that stand out to you down through the years? Really exquisite pieces of skill.
I'm going to say maybe the Richie Hogan one from 2 years ago in the Leinster final, that kind of flick. Like, you know, you have your like Joe Canning or Owen Kelly, the absolute pile drivers, the blasts to the roof of the net, like, you know, the rockets of shots, or I think Eddie Owen Kelly won v Cork in 2008 and Porky Queeves that he kind of unleashed drive into the far corner. But there is something very, very impressive by those little skills. And yeah, like the Morris one, it was just like the amount of kind of, I suppose, power and pace he got on the shot, given the kind of the one-handed swipe nature of it. It was kind of an unusual type of a ground stroke. The tennis analogy is quite a good one. It's very kind of accurate, I think, in that sense. But yeah, something that's kind of a bit different, that's kind of kind of away from the norm. Another one actually I loved was Shane Dowling in 2019 against Kilkenny.
The
kind of
bat, overhead bat.
To get that much accuracy and to kind of put it in the net from that far out against a keeper, the renown of Owen Murphy, was really, really impressive. That was actually the same goal that Richie Hogan would have got it. I know I'm going recency bias here now in times one. I'm trying to think off the top of my head, but that kind of a bit of ingenuity and bit of kind of creativity and kind of flick is something I think really to be admired from a forward close to goal.
Definitely, yeah. Even Sean O'Leary's goal in the centenary final, where Damien Martin was gone to one side of the goal and he just changed the direction back.
Yeah,
it was impossible to defend against, impossible for a keeper as well. Harry Byrne had Joe Canning goal for Portumna v Valley Hale in the All-Ireland semi-final. I think the full-back and the keeper were both coming out on him, and it was literally just a swipe across the ground into an empty net. Richard Hogan and Andrew Sullivan both had DJ against Clare. I think he rose highest. Shefflin actually definitely went for a point, and he just came in ahead of Brian Quinn and tapped it into the net. A great goal, definitely. Sean O'Sullivan just said, great minor semi-final Wednesday in Waterford. De La Salle v Mount Sion. Hopefully the schools get behind them and bring a great atmosphere. Yeah, the schools will be just about back all right. NLR just said Pat Ryan v Cork 2018 All-Ireland semi, Def Flick. Yeah, something similar as well. The one that went in over Nash's head. Just that little bit of ingenuity. It takes a certain type of an instinct to do it. We'll just fly through some of the rest of the results in Tipperary. As you said there, the Brackens drew 116 apiece with Lockmore. After winning the mid-title, this is a huge result for the Brackens. And they kind of, Lockmore were the ones that were chasing the game and chasing the draw throughout. JK Brackens have kind of that trap door. Even if they don't qualify the group, they'll still get through. The same can be said for Nina Airog as well, because they won the North. Killadangan 118, Airog and McCarthy Donoghue 9 points. Scoreline probably doesn't do justice to how tight this was. In the last 5 minutes, I think Killadangan reeled off 1-6 without reply, and they were struggling until that point, but 1-6 without reply really kicked them on. Then Willie Connors is back from injury as well. He's been out a long time since that injury picked up against Kerry in January in the Munster League. He's back in tow with them as well. Horace Lee had a 29 points to 23 win over Templederry Kenyans. That sets up that group is absolutely evenly poised there. And as you said, Drum, who are on 4 points, could still mathematically potentially end up not getting out of the group, which would be big. And Tumivara had a hard-fought win against Holy Cross Ballycal. The big penalty save from Rory Brislan there. He denied Dara Woods a goal from a penalty, which was crucial in the wind-up. Just fly through Waterford then as well. The quarter-final pairings are set up after the weekend. It finished 4 Mile Water 118, Passage 113. So the big second half comeback from Passage, but Aaron Ryan was on top form for 4 Mile Water. He fired over 10 points, 5 from play, and they were able to win by 5 despite shooting 17 wides. Lismore are through to a quarter final. I know they've had some big injuries. The two Dailies, Ireland and Cork have been under pressure, and Maurice Shanahan has been under pressure with a broken finger. But Jack Prendergast has been really leading the line for them, and Big Dan at the edge of the square. They came good with a late flurry to book their place in the last 8. 22 points to 117 over Clonea. Looked like Clonea were in pole position when they got a late goal, but a big finish from Lismore there. Abbeyside were 313 to 118 winners over Dunhill. Conor Prunty missed this game for Abbeyside, and Mark Ferncombe, who's one of their best attackers, he went off with a serious injury at the end. So they'll hope to have Prunty back for a quarter final, but it doesn't look like Mark Ferncombe is going to make it. Michael O'Halloran hit a late winner for them, and probably the only one of the quarterfinals that wasn't really competitive. Finished De La Salle 220, Tallow 14 points, 8 points for Reuben Halloran, and 1-2 for Eddie Barrett. And that sets up quarter-final pairings of Ballygunner against 4 Mile Water, an unenviable task for 4 Mile Water there, led by Jamie Barron and Conor Gleeson. Mount Sion against Lismore, Dungarvan against De La Salle, and Romore against Abbeyside, while the relegation playoffs see Clonea against Dunhill and Tallow against Passage. So Passage were county finalists in 2020, and they're now in a relegation playoff. Fintan, anything in particular stand out there? Is there anybody looking like they can even make a dent in Ballygunner?
You probably think not. But there's always kind of one every year. They always have one game. Like last year, I think it was Mount Sion kind of pushed them to kind of 2 or 3 points in the semis. So one game usually does kind of crop up. The 2 games next Sunday, actually, I think are live on TV. They're the TG Cacker games. Mount Sion v Lismore and Ballygunner v 4 Mile Water. You think like De La Salle, Rollmore, Mount Sion get a bit of momentum. Obviously Dungarvan, Abbey as well. The two Dungarvan-based clubs, and then obviously Lismore and 4 Mile Water from the west. But look, all the momentum is kind of with Ballygunner. I suppose the other thing to mention actually is from the intermediate level, Kieran Bennett was still playing at the weekend. Obviously, the talk is him going to Australia, but Ballysaggart, who got relegated last year, won the Western Intermediate quarter-final 3-24 to 3-23 after extra time against Bricky Rangers, and they're now in the semi-final. And so I understand there's possibility if they keep winning, maybe that departure date may be delayed ever so slightly. Obviously, they'll try and get back up senior, but I think he had 2 big points for them in extra time to kind of win that game after the game had finished level at the end of normal time. So just in the whole kind of county scene in terms of a big name, that's maybe an interesting one to look out for. But ultimately, given the playing talent that Ballygunner have on offer, and even the fact that they've added someone like Patrick Fitzgerald now, who's kind of probably the most hyped young player in Waterford, I think, in terms of kind of forward talent straight out of minor. For a team that won the All-Ireland club title, that's some addition to be pushing into the mix now as well.
Yeah, they're getting stronger. A team that's on top getting stronger is always a good thing if a player's been added in there. Just a couple of good comments about different goals. Niall Gilligan against Galway in 99, that was an absolute peach. Gillan v Waterford in League Final 2019 at Croke Park. Yeah, again, changed the direction of the ball. Left, I think, it was Stephen O'Keefe in the Waterford goals, left him at no chance whatsoever. I won't let you comment on this, Fintan, I'll just read it out. Sean O'Sullivan, did you see the video Buff Egan put out on the missed goal? It was in one of the American games. I saw it, and the commentary was outrageous. He said, he had her in the bed and he didn't touch her. Yeah, the goal was definitely at his mercy anyway, without a doubt. And he just, sometimes I think when players get in that position, they try to be too fancy, and he tried to put it right into the corner and end up slicing across it. But we'll just fly on to a couple of other games. Obviously, there was around the final round of games in the Offaly Senior Hurling Championship over the weekend. I'll fly through these because I was at a few of them, or I was at one of them, and got a decent bit of info on the rest of them. Borough had a 114 to 12-point win over Kinnity. This was a tight game, especially going down the last 5 or 10 minutes. It looked like we were under pressure, and we managed to pull through a flurry of points at the end. James Dempsey missed a penalty for Kinnity in the first half, and Owen Cahill actually had a penalty save for us as well. But we came with a strong finish, won by 5 in the wind-up through to the quarterfinals. The parents for the quarterfinals...
Were you on the pitch watching this game, Verney, now, or on the sideline?
No, I was on the sideline. No, I was trying to play Senior B for us yesterday. We actually got through to the Senior B semi-final yesterday, which is our first time ever playing Senior B. There's only, there's 10 teams senior, so the next 6 teams ranked 11 through 16 are in Senior B. And ourselves and Kilcormac have our second teams in the semi-final. We're playing Clara, which is their first team, and Kilcormac are playing Tullamore. So no, I've often, I remember during my brief spell with Wicklow, I remember going up to Down and I was on the Wicklow panel for the day, and the manager came over to me a couple of days after asking me, did I do a report on the match? And I just turned on him. I was like, no, I was on the sideline, togged out, ready to play. I wasn't reporting on the match. But no, I was watching the game from the sideline, nervous enough until the last 10 or 15 minutes when we kind of got on top, thankfully. Ryan has suffered their first loss in this year's championship. They were beaten 119 to 115 by Kilcormac in Tullamore on Saturday evening. That actually sees them only through to the quarterfinals. They would have been probably expected to go straight through to the semi-finals. Kildare had a 411 to 114 win over their near neighbours and rivals Sir Kieran, so that keeps them out of any relegation trouble. And Belmont continued their 100% record with a big win over Shinrone, 318 to 214. I think it was actually 318 to 110 till Shinrone hit 1-4 without reply, but the game was well over at that stage. And that tees up quarterfinals of Borough against Ballinamere and Rhinus against Shinrone. And traditionally, Shinrone would have a decent enough record against Rhinus and would fancy their chances in that one. So Rhinus are going for 4 in a row, but definitely far from smooth. And Belmont and Kilcormac are straight through to the semi-finals, and both are unbeaten. And Belmont have done that predominantly without Oisín Kelly, who's not back from his cruciate injury yet. So that's huge for them. David Nally is top scorer in the senior championship. He's absolutely flying. I think Owen Cahill is next best. But Belmont, who have never won a senior county title, are definitely look like they're edging closer, and with Rhinus potentially looking like they may have slipped a bit, the door may be ajar for someone there. Lots of other hurling action, but we might just move to a bit of football. We go to the Dublin Senior Football Championship. Fintan will just fly through the results here, and you can we'll go through a couple of the main talking points then. Raheny 113, Temple Oak Sing Street 3-7. Big result for Temple Oak there, particularly with Brian Howard and Brian Fenton in tow for Raheny. A big result there. Thomas Davis 217, county finalists a couple of years ago, obviously. Skerry Harps 4-9. So they won't be happy with conceding 4 goals, but still got the result. Nafina had a 2-8 to 9-point win over St. Jude's. Kilmacud Crokes had what looks definitely on paper a fairly dour 12 points to 8 victory over Ballantyre St. John's. One of the games of the weekend was definitely Ballyboden St. Enda's 4-10, Ballymon Kickham's 2-11. But we focus on Coola 4-11, Clontarf 3-7. Con O'Callaghan made a winning return for his club. I think he finished with 1-6 to his name, including an important goal at the end. But he was trumped a small bit by his younger brother Niall, who scored 3-1. A couple of things to put to you here, Fintan. We still actually don't know what Con's injury was for the All-Ireland semi-final. The Dublin County Board and all his club mates and county mates have managed to keep that under wraps. How worrying is it, though, for club players and potentially county players that there's another O'Callaghan coming, that there's another guy that can score 3-1 at club level, and he's probably just late teens, early 20s?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And well, what you said first there, I don't think we'll ever be told the full definition, of the exact nature of that injury. It'll be something kind of vague. Probably will be released if you ever actually ask. But obviously, I was talking earlier about kind of Mayo, the regrets of the All-Ireland Championship this year. It is one of the great what-ifs when Dublin only got within a point of Kerry and how they were lacking a focal point in their attack, especially in the first half. Probably a bit better when Kilkenny moved aside in the second half. What O'Callaghan could have done. Obviously, from the club point of view, that's big, because obviously last couple of years, you especially are probably used to just listening about Coola's hurling exploits from the presenter of this show. So I think they won the Senior 2 football last year. So I think this is their first year back up in Senior 1. And I mean, in a group of Ballyboden recent champions, Ballymun recent champions, and Clontarf. Okay, it's on scoring difference, but after 3 games to be top of the table is pretty good for them, It sets up a pretty tasty looking last group game now, the fact that they're playing Ballymun, winner takes all to kind of go through. So Ballyboden are actually through because they can't get caught by both of them. So that Coola Ballymun game is really kind of nicely set up there when you think of like the options, I suppose, between John Small or I think Billy McMahon's playing the forward line at the moment, or James McCarthy, or who's going to kind of go back and kind of be detailed to kind of match Con. But like, they obviously have Vickford Simons, you Patrick O'Cuffik Byrne, you Conor Mullally, who was kind of on the Dublin panel last couple of years. You have another O'Callaghan goal scoring option now, as you said, with kind of getting 3. So it just sets it up nicely. And what I was saying there earlier with Tipp, I think it's now that you can kind of get really interested in these sort of things, because you see the kind of the thing is shaping up in terms of the kind of group stages. Like the other game that stands out for me, looking ahead to round 3 now, is that Nafina are through, but it's St. Jude's and Thomas Davis. Again, 2 sides that have both contested finals recently. So that's a winner takes all, and one of them won't be in the knockout stages this year, which is obviously kind of another team of kind of renown that have exited. Obviously, Jude's are kind of the perennial bridesmaids, aren't they, of the Dublin club football team? Haven't managed to kind of get over the line, and huge regrets again last year not managing to kind of do it when they played Kilmacud at that time. So they're the kind of 2 games that are kind of standing out. And obviously, wonder by round 3, you said Kilmacud Crokes was a bit of a dour game. I suppose all the focus will there be another attacking addition in their ranks by round 3. I'm not exactly sure what stage the process is at there, but maybe we might have a bit more clarity and maybe kind of a bit of light at the end of the tunnel over the next week or so on that.
Yeah, should definitely be close to a decision, be it yea or nay at this stage. One result that I didn't go through in the Dublin Championship, actually 2, Roundtowers Lusk 121, Lucan 1-7, and Whitehall Columkill 3-16, Castleknock 3-14. I don't know if you saw this, but Conor Costello had a free at the end, and it's hard to assume what he was going for, but it somehow ended up in the net anyway, and that was all they needed for a big 2-point win there. Castleknock obviously were in a final only 3 or 4 years ago, and that's a big result for Whitehall Columkill there as well. Just fly through a couple of quick comments here. Some great comments in just about different things that are going on in different championships. Flash just says St. Kieran's are there, Father Casey's in Newcastle West, all have 100% records in the Limerick Senior Football Championship. And just talking about the hurling championship, Patrick's Well playing in Pearshit September 3rd in Kilmallock. That'll be a big one. Keane Lynch definitely won't be back. Doesn't look like he's going to feature this year at all for them. Richard Hogan just says 2 double headers in Waterford next Saturday and Sunday. Yeah, they're running it off quite quickly. And as I said it before, same with Wexford, you do get quite a lot of eyes on your championship when you're coming to knockout stages a lot quicker than others. You get live games. And a point you said there, Fintan, as well. I think in club championships where you don't necessarily have a vested interest, like I've no vested interest in the Dublin Football Championship, but when you get to the round 3 games and someone's going to be out and there's big games, same with Tipperary, someone's going to be out at the end of the group stages, kind of definitely does perk your interest up a bit.
It's just that sense of jeopardy, isn't it? When there's something at stake, and definitely when we get to these round 3 group games, or as you said, quarterfinals there next weekend, as you're talking about who's shaping up to possibly have a go at Ballygunner, or if Ballygunner were to be, there was a massive shock to be taken down. It's definitely a bit more interesting.
Yeah, without a doubt. Sean O'Sullivan just says Ballygunner Intermediate had a big win the weekend, put away 4-21, could end up with 2 Ballygunners at senior. Nearly happened 2 years ago. I assume it's the same scenario in Offaly where, just say hypothetically, if Burr were to win the senior B, which would have been the old intermediate, you can't go up senior A, but you have 7 to 8 players, I think, that must be regraded senior A just to make sure that you can't just come back and win, a heap of senior Bs in a row or something like that. Not saying that it would happen, but to the best of my knowledge, it's impossible to have 2 teams up at senior level. They guard against that. Flash just says as well here, Kildare and Pallaskenry playing Ballygunner the same day in Askeaton in the hurling championship, and Sean O'Sullivan, 4 Mile Water and Mount Sion both capable of pushing Ballygunner. I definitely would think Mount Sion under day anyway, definitely capable. There was no Kilkenny senior hurling action at the weekend, but Richard Hogan has a nice little tidbit here. Mikey Kerry has delayed his departure too. He's not going to be available for Kilkenny for 2023 and possibly beyond, but he is still around at the moment, and his Goran Young Ireland's beat Thomastown in a surprise result in Kilkenny Inter-Championship. That definitely would be a surprise result, given Thomastown have been semi-finalists last year, county finalists the year before as well. Andrew Sullivan just clearing up something there. Saw a report that Kelly came on for Belmont. I think that's definitely the first time Oisin Kelly has appeared for Belmont this year. Richard Hogan, Mick, I have played, reported and scored for the club in championship. I think that's a good achievement. That is a fair achievement. Lastly, Sean O'Sullivan, in Waterford, we have the hurling then the football. Lads not playing football get 8 weeks off before the All-Ireland series. Same in Wexford, even though there's quite a lot of dual stars in Waterford, and there'll probably be even more again in Wexford. Just fly through a few more football results. Fintan, you have a bit of information on the Kerry Club Championship. I always think one of the great, I don't know, is anomaly the right word, but Kerry is, they're really a law unto themselves. So this is the club championship is currently going on at the moment. So no divisional teams allowed involved. If a divisional team wins the county championship, which will take place after the club championship, the club champions will represent Kerry in the Munster series. It happened with Stacks a few years ago, where I think they were hammered by Nemo Rangers. They actually hadn't played championship action in months, I think. But a bit of an update on it. The cutthroat nature of the Kerry Club Championship is there for all to see, it'd be fair to say.
Yeah, so it is a bit of a confusing setup to those outside it. Look, it seems to work very well for them, and the divisional setup is kind of enshrined there. People obviously are big fans of it in terms of letting smaller club players have a chance to play at the highest level. But the relegation thing is probably the most interesting thing. So, as you said, 4 teams have gone through now to the semi-finals, and given the strength of East Kerry with the Cliffords and everyone like that, they probably would be, they won a couple of county titles recently. We're going for 3 in a row last year. They would be regarded as a big chance of winning the county championship, for example. And if they win that, then it will be one of the 4 club sides. So that will be Spa, Killarney, Cairns O'Reilly's, Dingle or Temple Low will end up representing Kerry in the Munster Senior Club Championship. The bottom end, though, it's kind of quite interesting. Ken Mayer, Sean O'Shea, and obviously Stephen O'Brien, they've ended up in the relegation playoff, and so have us and Stacks. Last year, these were the 2 sides that met each other in the senior club final. Yeah. Ken Mayer drew 1 game, lost another they drew 1 game, and the other 2 games that they lost was by a point in each occasion. So unbelievably fine margins for them. Austin Stacks have won the last 3 senior club titles in a row, and then they won the Kerry County Championship last December and would have got to the Munster final, but they're now in the relegation playoff against Kenmare. But then the other anomaly, if either of them were to manage to win the county senior championship, then they would avoid relegation and the other team would automatically go down. So the playoff could have to play for a while. But yesterday, Dr. Crokes playing Austin Sachs. The Crokes had relegation troubles themselves. Obviously, their team very familiar to people from winning county titles, winning Munster titles, getting to the All-Ireland. But they're obviously safe now. They're going to be, they have no relegation worries. But the fact that Austin Sachs go down, it probably is just too cutthroat. I mean, from the outside, to me, I think there should be more clubs. Even like just to say this to you, like, so for example, the second level, the intermediate club championship has reached the quarterfinal stage. I mean, naming the 8 clubs, I think a lot of these clubs are recognisable to people. You've Rathmore playing Lown Rangers, Gaeltic playing Gwinny Beaufort playing Glenflesk, Killarney Legion playing Kilcommon. So you've guys like, Paul Murphy, Shane Ryan, Brian O'Bioglick, James O'Donoghue, for example, obviously more recently, Brian Kelly, like a lot of big name teams. A couple of those teams have been in senior finals recently, senior semis, but got relegated over the last couple of years. So it's cutthroat at one end in terms of the senior and trying to avoid going down, and then it's fairly cutthroat at the other end in the intermediate in terms of going up. And then this is a knock-on effect with Kerry's kind of dominance of the intermediate championship, when essentially the 9th best club team in Kerry will represent them in the intermediate championship. And I'd say automatically once they come out of Kerry will be favourites to win the All-Ireland. That's generally the kind of way it happens, but it is certainly an anomaly the way it kind of works out. And I think every year if it kind of confuses a lot of people, because I suppose like Offaly don't have it, as far as the divisional system with that kind of talent. I mean, on a similar level in Cork last night, the divisional section of the Senior Hurling Championship, Football Championship took place, and McKilly, who won 3 county titles over the last couple of years, and there would have been kind of criticism of that, they're from East Cork. They beat Avondhu quite comprehensively to score 329, but might be of interest in terms of kind of the talent they were able to kind of call on to bring into their setup. So they had Kieran Joyce available to them this year, the Cork centre-back. He's playing centre-back for them. And they had Jack Leahy and Diarmuid Healy, who would have been 2 of Cork's better forwards on the team that won the All-Ireland minor title last year. They got like 1-5 between them. You also have Seamus Harnedy, Brian Lawton might be familiar to people who played senior for Cork a couple of years ago, and then loads of other guys that have played at various levels. But just the strength that they have kind of in their setup, and they now go forward to the knockout stage proper, where they'll take on the kind of club sides, So good situation with divisional sides being pretty strong in both Kerry football and Cork hurling championships over the next few weeks.
Might just focus on that divisional thing for a second. So the Bearded Pirate just says, I think the divisional championship is such a good idea and more counties should adopt it. I'd love if Westmeath did it in hurling. So when O'Killy win, we'll say a senior hurling championship, as they did a couple of years ago, I don't know, maybe it's just the commentary I'm hearing, it's as negative as is positive. Like what is the general vibe, we'll say, in Cork about, divisional sides? Do people generally think it's a positive thing? Do they think they're taking them away from their club, or do they think it's another chance for them to get exposure at a higher level? If you're playing at junior and intermediate level and you're getting a chance to play at senior level, the closest we would have had in Burr is a parish. So Crinkle, which is now a junior B club, but would have been an intermediate and a junior club, and Carrigan Riverstown, which is now an intermediate club, but would have been probably senior B at times. They would have all been able to come in and play under the parish team in Burr. That rule was gotten rid of quite a while ago, but they all got their chance to play senior level with a club within the same parish if they wanted to. And it's kind of it was as close as we were going to ever get to a divisional system. But a lot of lads like to be able to try their hand at senior level to see if they'd be able to cut the mustard at. Is the vibe around it generally good within Cork? And even what do you hear from your neighbours in Kerry? I've never really heard too much negative commentary about the idea of the Cliffords getting to play senior football when they're coming from a junior club and other lads doing similar.
No, the commentary wouldn't be negative. I mean, maybe the odd time when they're very successful, people say that they've just become a bit too strong. Like in the Kerry situation, it's just happened that a lot of good clubs in East Kerry have become eligible for the divisional team because they got relegated from senior, like Rathmore, Paul Murphy's club and Shane Ryan. Legion now this year, James O'Donoghue, Brian Kelly, Jonathan Lyon from recent Kerry senior teams. But not every division, for example, in Cork is very well organised or is very kind of motivated to kind of perform at that level. Whereas in Immokalee, there just is a big tradition of hurling. It's a very, very dominant, an area dominated in sport in terms by hurling. They would have won a few counties in the 90s with a lot of big names, like Donoghue, Diarmuid O'Sullivan, that. Then obviously that continued on to the kind of the team that Seamus Harnedy was kind of leading there between 2017 and 19. And then basically, I suppose you lose players then if a team from your locality wins the intermediate championship and goes up to one of the senior grades in Cork, like Father O'Neill's would have been an example. I mean, the negative commentary happens in Cork really more so with the college teams when they had players from outside of the county playing for them. For example, Dylan Gainey would have been playing for UCC in senior football last Wednesday night, or when UCC won the county football title in 2011, that kind of got a lot bit more criticism, because you look at that team now and it was absolutely littered with stars. Like you had Peter Crowley, Johnny Buckley, Daithí Casey, Stephen O'Brien and Paul Gainey all playing from Kerry. And you also had Niall Daly, the Roscommon senior, Now you did have about 7 or 8 Cork lads as well, but the fact that there was guys outside the county, I think that's where it gets the kind of bit of criticism. But in some of the Inverkilly guys that I've mentioned, their clubs are very, very small. They're not going to get a chance to play senior, and Cork is such a vast county in terms of clubs at different grades and rankings operating together. It is probably good that they get this chance, but I suppose there is just an element of like Inverkilly are just very, very well organised at the moment. They're very, very strong. Fergal Condon, who knows the Cork senior hurling selector, he would have managed them for 3 years. He had a very, very good operation in place. Now it's Dennis Ring, who's a lot of experience at county level. He now is their manager. So they just put a lot of interest levels in. And I mean, scoring 329 in 60 minutes last night kind of speaks volumes for it. But like they lost last year, the quarterfinal stage to Glen Rovers. It's not like they're demolishing the top club sides when it comes to it, but they will be a pretty strong force. There are some clubs, when they beat them in the county final, aren't too pleased, because obviously, look, you're probably looking at it thinking we're drawn from one area, they're drawn from a whole massive area, and I can understand that when it comes to it. But I think in general, I think there is a benefit to it, and it's just part of the tradition, Verney. Like the same way in Kerry football, they're not going to abolish the divisional system. But like one of the issues in Kerry then is kind of outside of that is like it's just simple demographics at the moment. There's more and more people, and the population is kind of increasing in an area, say around Killarney. So that's the East Kerry area getting stronger and stronger, as we've seen with the likes of David Clifford coming on stream. Where South Kerry, then the population is kind of dwindling, and clubs are battling to survive at underage level. And I think nearly every club in South Kerry has merged with a rival, with another club at underage level. So you have circumstances outside of the GA's control, with certain rural areas with low numbers, and that is affecting the divisional sides in those areas.
Yeah, I think it's only natural you're going to see some more amalgamations as well, just given rural numbers are quite tricky. And I don't buy the argument of a team just potentially been stacked on paper. Say, for example, Inverkilly, and I know you're saying they're very, very well organised, but they're pulling from several different clubs. That means you're having to deal with several different club managers. Very, very tricky to organise training nights. You're not going to have the same bond or unity as a club team who have played together since they were 5 or 6 and know each other intimately. So there are pros and cons for it. A lot of it is no more than, say, the Dublin footballers when they went in that 6 in a row run. It's a golden generation. It can't last, and even divisional sides will have a little golden period, but it won't last forever, and the wheel will turn again. But I do think it's a very, very interesting concept. Fintan, I'll just throw this at you. I know you have to go now in a second, and you were obviously keeping an eye closely on things in Cork. Bars v Blackrock, big result in Cork. Ethan Toomey, Ben O'Connor and Brian Hayes going really well for Bars footballers and hurlers at the moment. And lads, that Pat Ryan will be on Pat Ryan's radar. 3 big lads, 6'3". You've obviously keeping a very close eye on what's going on in Cork. Would you agree that these 3 guys, I wouldn't know them probably as well as you, but definitely Ben O'Connor is definitely one that would be on Pat Ryan's radar anyway?
Yeah, I mean, Brian Hayes is probably an interesting one over the last couple of weeks. He's been playing full forward in football and hurling, and he's been superb in both, scoring in both codes. I mean, last year he won, I think in a 6-week period last year in the summer of 2021, he won 2 All-Ireland under-20 hurling medals, a Munster under-20 football medal, and a Munster under-20 hurling medal. So he's obviously very, very talented in dual. But it's kind of football he's kind of made his name at in terms of St. Finbarr's team that got the Ireland club semi-final. He was very good. And then he would have come to the fore for the Cork seniors this year, would have come on against Dublin in the quarterfinal in Croke Park, would have played well in qualifier and Loud. There is a bit of talk about which way he'll go. Will Pat Ryan try to, I suppose, secure his services? But there's been nothing definite so far to indicate that he's going to go away from football or anything like that. And then Ben O'Connor and Ethan Toomey are kind of 2 young players that are kind of coming into the frame. Would have played underage for Cork, 1 minor. Toomey would have played under 20. He was under fringes as a senior. And it is interesting, they would be a name, I'm sure, very familiar to you, St. Finbarr's as a club, but in hurling terms, they've been kind of out of the limelight for a long time now. So like they've Ger Cunningham in charge of them this year, beat Blackrock, pretty massive game now. Winner takes all next Sunday, last round of the group stage. They play Sarsfields. You're gonna have guys, loads of guys who play county level. I mean, the 30 players will take to the field. I'd say about 20 lads will have played county at some different grade, minor to senior. So it should be a really high quality game. But it's a good thing you talk about Cultural Championship, because Cork going to a system where there's only 12 teams in each grade has definitely made it far more competitive, and it's far harder to get out of your group, even if you are quite talented and kind of going well. So the kind of stakes will be high, but definitely it will be interesting to see what of those guys come into the frame for Pat Ryan. I mean, the other thing to throw into the, I suppose, mix there is Ben O'Connor is not just very talented at GA, he's a very talented rugby player. Presentation Cork got to the Munster Schools Cup final last year. He was their out half. He kind of, place kicker, got a couple of tries in the semi-final. He's obviously a very big, imposing guy. He missed the start of the Munster Under 20 hurling championship this year because he's with the Ireland schools team in France playing a rugby tournament. So, as a link, the last two Cork minor All-Ireland hurling winning captains, Tomás O'Leary in 2001 and Ben O'Connor in 2021. One went rugby, as we know, forged a professional career. The other, there are maybe some suggestions that he could go that way, but there's nothing definite. I'm not suggesting he's definitely signed anything or anything like that, but he's obviously just an incredibly talented guy across the range of sports. And as is the way these things, Verney, there's lots of managers probably would like to work with him, but he'll have a big decision to make at some point.
Yeah, getting closer to that decision as well, I'd say. When he's obviously, as you mentioned, the 6-week period he had last year, it's getting towards the time where there's just going to be too much traffic and too much going on that he probably is going to have to make a decision. One last thing in Cork, Fintan, Donoghue O'Connor is still going strong, I believe. 41 years young. When a lad like this is still putting up the feats that he is at, you can never say that he's old. So I don't say 41 years young. He scored 3 points for Duhallow. That's the area team in the what's the Premier Senior Football Championship final yesterday. That'd be right.
Yeah, so that's the football. What I was talking about in McKinney there. This is the football version of it, the divisional final. So they lost. Duhallow would be kind of northwest Cork against Carbery, which would be kind of an area in West Cork, in southwest Cork, basically. They lost by a point. He actually missed a free in injury time from a tricky position to kind of draw the game, sent extra time. But his play, particularly in the first half, he was an absolute joy to watch. I was watching the Examiner, were live streaming it, so I was watching it last night. Scored 3 points in play, was at the heart of everything they were doing, still in brilliant physical condition, like lean, still has the skills off kind of left and right, still doing it for his club. And at 41 years of age, to be kind of playing that and lasting the full game is fairly impressive going,
And this is after playing the previous Sunday for Ballydesmond when he scored 7 points, and then playing the Wednesday in between for Duhallow where he scored 7 points. So at 41, he played 3 games in 7 days, which is a fair achievement. I'm 35, going on 36 in October, and I need at least 5 days after a game. If we don't have 5 days, I'm in big bother.
And scored 17 points across the 3 games, a mixture of play and freeze. So it's not like he's just making token appearances, 5 minutes here and there, coming on as a late sub or anything. He's at the heart of everything they do. And look, he always was a wonderful footballer to watch, very, very skillful, great kind of a target man, and, comfortable off either foot. And he's kind of still doing it for club level. Yeah, it's unbelievably impressive, especially at senior level. Obviously, for your club, you probably say go on for as long as you can, and you probably need to in an area with small numbers. But to still be doing it is absolutely amazing at senior division level.
One man who has been has always been doing it is Johnny Doyle, who made his debut for Allenwood in 1995. But over the weekend, he missed his first ever championship game for Allenwood. So the Kildare legend has been never present in his club's first team since making his debut in 95. But Doyle was forced to miss out the Blues 3-14 to 1-14 intermediate football championship victory over Cara in Newbridge due to injury. Doyle, who also started every single Kildare championship outing between 2000 and 2013, turned 44 earlier this year, but shows few signs of slowing down. A good sign for Allenwood that they were able to win without him. But again, there's another guy that there's just, I know he missed the game at the weekend, but there's literally no end to lads like that. I'd love if my genes, if I could just grab a bit of whatever him and Donoghue O'Connor have, because there's something a bit abnormal about these boys to be able to still doing what they're doing at this age. And that's what I love about the club as well, is we see, like, look at the Johnny Dwyer with Ferns, it's 36 or 37. I think there's subs that came on, and Frank Roach at the piece the other day were like 36, 37, and 38. You're never too old at club level. There's always something that you can contribute.
Absolutely, yeah. That's incredible with Doyle. But like similar to O'Connor, like the kind of build of him, he never kind of looked kind of out of shape. Always still kind of able to do it. So yeah, unbelievably impressive.
Yeah, Sean O'Sullivan says 41 compared to Dan the Man, he's only a Garsoon. Fair point. Compared to Kieran Kerry, who's still playing Junior B for Patrick's Well, they're all only Garsoons. Fintan, you probably have to go there, so I leave you. Thanks very much for joining us. I really, really appreciate it.
No worries, Verney. Chat to you soon.
Thanks a million, Fintan. Good man.
Bye-bye.
Just bring up quickly what is going on in the Kildare Championship at the moment. So the group stages is finished in Kildare. Just briefly get it up here. And these are the tables after the group stages in Kildare. So Naas, last year's county champions, or it was their first time in 31 years to win the county title. They're 3 from 3. A tie come through from that group as well. Eadstown and Maynooth are gone. Clane with 2 wins and a draw, top Group B. Selbridge second on 4 points. Sarsfields, I'll have to find out exactly if Sarsfields are gone out of the running of the Kildare Senior Football Championship. If they are, that would be a massive surprise at this stage. They were beaten at the weekend. Davy Burke, obviously, who's a regular contributor on the show, is the Sarsfields manager. Group C, Johnstown Bridge and Moorfield come through there. Johnstown Bridge, obviously led by Daniel Flynn, topping the table with 5. And Group D, Clarinco, whose name I couldn't pronounce too well on Thursday's show, they topped the group with St. Lawrence's second. I'm not too sure if that goes straight to the quarterfinals. I'll have to check it out, but it would probably make sense that it did. If so, Sarsfields could be out of the running in Kildare, which, as I said, would be a massive, massive surprise. Lots of other results through from the weekend. Just fly through the Roscommon Senior Football Championship. Michael Glavies were defeated by 3 points. It was Oran 2-10, Michael Glavies 2-7. Jerry Brown, who's a regular contributor to our game, he was involved with Michael Glavies. He said Oran led 8 points to 1 at half time, with 18-year-old Shane Walsh on fire with 5 points. I don't know what it is with Shane Walsh, is it generally seems to be a great sign that you're going to be an inter-county star. I think there was a Shane Walsh with Waterford back in the day, and obviously you have the current Galway player. Roscommon Gaels 2-7, Elphin 1-8. First half goals from Richard Hughes and Richard Walsh laid the foundation for victory for the Gaels there. Oran top section A and are through to the quarterfinals. Glavies and Roscommon Gaels are both on 2 points. They will meet in 2 weeks' time for a quarterfinal spot. The loser will head into a quarterfinal playoff, and Elphin are on 0 points and they're in relegation trouble. In section B, Western Gaels had a good victory over Clonagale. A poor enough game, but Western Gaels came through there. Kevin Higgins with 5 points for Western Gaels in the first half from midfield. There was a massive controversy over Western Gaels' first half goal. Craig is understood to have taken a shot that dropped short, but the umpire and referee deemed that the Clan player in possession stepped over the line, and it looked like it didn't by all accounts from anybody that was in the stand. St. Fallocks fell by a point to Boyle. It finished Boyle 1-13. St. Fallocks 15 points, and Fallocks had led for most of the game, having led by 9 points to 5 at half time. That group, Boyle and Clonagale are on 4 points and are both through to the quarterfinals and face each other for top spot. I might have actually made a mistake there. Sorry, apologies. Clonagale defeated Western Gaels. They're both through to the quarterfinals and face each other for top spot. Western Gaels and St. Fallocks are both on 0 points, and they square off to see who gets through to the quarterfinal playoff. Whoever wins that gets through to the playoff, and whoever loses is in relegation. Draw will see St. Fallocks safe, as they have much better scoring difference. Section C, Strokestown 2-10, Tulsk 2-10, a draw game there. And St. Bridget's had a comprehensive win over Pádraig Pearses. Pat Flanagan obviously involved with Pádraig Pearses. It finished Bridget's 4-10. Pearses 8 points. I believe Pearses were down a lot of bodies for that game. And in that group, Bridget's have 4 points and they're into the last 8. Pearses and Strokestown square off in round 3, with the winner getting straight through, and the loser will be in quarterfinal playoff. And Tulsk are also on 1 point, and they now face Bridget. So Tulsk are probably under pressure there to try and get through. just go through a couple of other comments there. Sean O'Sullivan just says the old intermediate grade. Apologies, I should have stopped sharing the screen there. Just says the old intermediate grade was much like a divisional team, used well, can really help strengthen the senior squad. Yeah, I'd have to agree. In certain counties in particular, I definitely think divisional teams are the way to go, particularly if there's a lot more amalgamations and rural teams are struggling. Obviously, just before we go, massive thanks to our sponsors, orgoretro.com, massive supporters of the show, obviously, and the best retro jerseys in the game. You can see obviously the Tipperary, Galway jersey that I have on today, the Wexford jersey, and that Kilkenny jersey, absolute beauties of jerseys. Go to orgoretro.com, use the promo code OurGame to get 15% off. That is all she wrote for today's show, folks. Thanks a million for joining us. Be back on Thursday again to preview all the weekend's action. Another massive weekend of club action coming up, and no doubt we will have a few more inter-county vacancies revealed and different things tied up. But thanks a million for joining us, folks. Really appreciate it as always. And as I said, thanks a million to our sponsors, orgoretro.com. Use the promo code OurGame to get 15% off. Thanks a million, folks. See you on Thursday.